Hey everybody, John Malanca here with United Patients Group. Be informed and be well. And I have a special guest today. She is considered the mother of probiotics, Natasha Trenev. How are you, Natasha?
I'm very good and so happy to inform your listeners of the most important aspect of their health.
Probiotics. And so let me just get into a little. So for our audience members, Natasha is not only her company is not only a company that I've used for years, but she and her husband Jordan have become dear friends as well. And so, people ask me, what do I do on a regular basis when it comes to my health and wellness, besides using cannabinoids, exercise, diet, sleep, but also what I also put in my body as well as on my body as well. And so I do use probiotics, and I have shared quite a few blogs on our site. And so I just want to share that with you. But Natasha Trenev, she's considered the mother of probiotics. She's a probiotic pioneer. She has significantly contributed to the evolution of the probiotics history. Prior to her work in the field, consumers had a very limited knowledge of the supplement and its many benefits. Natasha's extensive experience and knowledge of the industry began with her family's 750-year history producing the most beneficial yogurt prized by the royal family of Yugoslavia. She's located down in Southern California. After graduating UCLA in 1970, a decade of research led to Natasha's development of the first revolutionary methods of producing an effective and scientifically validated single-strain probiotic bacteria product. Her effort helped to establish the entire probiotics category in the world. And so on that great intro, Natasha, thanks for being on. And let's talk about probiotics. I know it's starting to come up quite a bit of what are probiotics, what do they do? And I've shared over the years that the gut there's a great documentary, but the gut is the second brain. We have the brain, and the gut's the second brain. And when that is off, everything else is off. And so let's just jump on here. What are probiotics?
Well, probiotics was a term that was brought to me to the health food industry worldwide in 1981. And it literally means for life, whereas antibiotics mean against life. And it's the selection by a knowledgeable person of beneficial bacteria that have been with us for centuries and have contributed to our health, well-being, not only mental, but physical, but also to the beauty of our skin. So it is a very complex issue, and you should know who you're buying your probiotics from, because there are live bacteria, and live bacteria are smarter than we are, and they only perform when they're enticed to perform, and they are essential to our good health. And I just want to say right now that the reason we are having a problem with chronic disease in this country, about 80% of our healthcare dollars, of which is 4.3 trillion, is spent on chronic healthcare. So we know we have a huge problem with the bacteria, about 100 trillion of them, that live in the 27 feet of our GI tract.
When you say the $4.3 trillion spending on healthcare, and it's about 80% of health issues, I think you've shared before, in the US have to deal with chronic disease. And so you're starting to hear, I do a lot in the integrative functional medicine world as well. And I was at a conference this past year, and I was surprised to hear, not surprised, I should say, but about 5 or 6 of the doctors in their presentations about different ailments, cancer being one, they all had a section about probiotics and how it can benefit health and how things are stemmed from. You and I even having conversations about Corinne's passing about pancreatic cancer. You've shared a lot of the studies showing the benefits of and the need for probiotics when fighting certain ailments. Most certainly, something as severe as cancer, but also pancreatic cancer. And so, why is this being ignored? I know, but can you share why this isn't out every day, being talked about by your doctors, et cetera?
So first of all, we are a healthcare system based on urgent care. In other words, the medicines and the treatments we have are for people who need urgent care. And if you do need urgent care, and God forbid you're in an automobile accident, then Western medicine is your best choice. The problem with Western medicine, it tries to cure symptoms and do something quickly. Whereas we are a organism, the body is an organism that we have actually more bacterial cells in our body. Some estimate even 10 times more microbes that compose our body than we have human cells. And each year, the whole body cellular structure is replaced. And that body cellular structure needs to be formed in a healthy fashion. Without the right beneficial optimal balance of these bacteria in our gut is the start of all disease in the body, no matter what name we give it. And that's basically it. The other problem is that the dietary supplement industry is very loosely regulated, and probiotics even more so, because probiotics require rocket science for the manufacture, preservation, and activity. So you have all these people putting pretty boxes, telling you things that don't make any sense scientifically in order to sell you a product. But the situation in our culture is very serious. With 80% of chronic disease and exploding, we have cancer in all age groups, including young people, increasing by more than 20%. Yeah. We have autoimmune disease that's exploding. Autism is growing rapidly, and the numbers are not reducing. By 2030, 1 in 2 children will have autism. What else can I tell you that cancer is rapidly increasing, and yet we don't look at the microbiome or the bacteria in our gut as the first solution. And how did we get ourselves into this place? Well, we got into this place by allowing more than 200 chemicals in our food supply, pollution of our water, pollution of our air, and pollution of our mind with very negative thoughts and our very negative perception of reality. So we can no longer rely on just friendly fermented food to take care of our problem. We need to have precision probiotics that happen to be taken in a careful consideration so we can give the body the tools to start healing itself, and not to end up taking more drugs to try to control symptoms, which will ultimately lead to cancer.
You mentioned about the different chronic diseases and how they're not only affecting elderly, but nowadays even newborn. And so it is scary what's in our food. And right now in the news, you're seeing a lot of food products that are starting to be banned here in the United States, but have been banned all over the EU, as well as many countries in Europe, but we still have them here, and they're proven to cause cancer. Why is that? We're seeing that in the food that we put into our bodies, as well as skincare. There's a lot of, I think there's about 1,600, and I could be totally wrong on that, products that are banned here in the United States to put in skincare. Other way around, banned in Europe and Asia, but they're allowed in our skincare here. Hopefully, would it be the FDA that looks over that?
Yeah, the FDA really is the one who's letting the ball drop here. And actually, what we need to do as citizens is, start demanding that these chemicals be taken out, and stop killing farm animals because we're afraid of CO2. Which is a completely different topic. But, let's talk about something that people can understand. I'm sure everybody's heard about the lawsuit against Monsanto and their weed killer called glyphosate. So I believe the commercial name was Roundup. Yeah. And there's now another slew of lawsuits against Monsanto and Bayer because Bayer bought Monsanto. And what people are failing to understand, that what caused the cancer with the Roundup is the destruction of the microbiome. It wasn't a direct effect on our cellular structure, but we now know from that case in Roundup, when you disturb the microbiome and kill it off to such a fashion, your immune system is basically gone, because those bacteria, are very important to communicate with the immune cells that are on the intestinal wall. And about 80% of our immune system is on that intestinal wall. So if we don't take the right beneficial bacteria, we don't know how to support our immune system. We listen to the fast talkers and the people who are promising you all these things, but they really don't know anything about probiotics, microbiology, or how to help you. And yet we have very serious problems with these pesticides like glyphosate that are in our food supply that are having a destructive effect on our microbiome. And that's causing the explosion of chronic disease, especially cancers, and especially cancers of the colon, which now we know there is a causal effect, and that's different microbes in the wrong position in our intestinal tract that are stimulating our body to make cheap proteins. And those cheap proteins made to recycle all of our body are causing these cancerous growths.
So with these cancerous growths and with probiotics and getting your your gut bacteria into balance, what age would you recommend taking probiotics? You know, we're in the health and wellness world, and a lot of times patients will say, you know, I'm going to try this, and if this doesn't work, then I'll try that option. And so, you know, why not be ahead of the game, cut them off of the path, and start bringing your body back to balance before something awful is any ailment, chronic disease attacks your body. So what age would you recommend a patient?
Well, you start at birth, or even while you're in the womb of your mother.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I could bore you with statistics, but women in westernized cultures are not able any longer to pass on these beneficial bacteria to their child while it's in the womb and going through the birth canal. And so as a result, the children were born with a handicap. Their immune system cannot tolerate food going across the intestinal wall. So we have an explosion of food intolerance. We have an explosion of allergies. We just have sick children that are not thriving and learning. And so I tell mothers, we have a product called Life Start. It's made in 3 different formulations. And that product should be taken by the pregnant woman for the child, and our special healthy Trinity or Trenev trio in the professional during the pregnancy, and right after birth, the child can then be given this Life Start product along with breast milk. It's very easy to do. The mother can just put it on the nipple and the child can suckle it off. But we know that in Western societies, the children lack this beneficial bacteria. Only 7% of the women in North America have this bacteria to pass on to their child, which is the most essential bacteria for their health for the rest of their life.
Incredible. You know, at the beginning of this podcast, my apology, Natasha, and I was going to do it towards the end, but Natasha and her husband, Jordan, are the owners of Natren. Natren, you will find it in pretty much every health store here in America, including Whole Foods. It's in the refrigerator section. This is for the general public, and it's the Natren product line. And then the, would you consider it medical professional line?
Yes.
Yeah, and so the other one is Protren. And Protren, you can ask Protren, I guess, ask your doctor by name if they know anything about the Protren.
Or they can contact us and we can direct them to Protren.
My apology, I should say we're contact you directly, and you can find them on natren.com as well as protren.com as well. And so I just want to throw that on there. You know, there's so many, like all the different vitamins and supplements that are out there, and I take a lot and have been taking them a lot for the past, I want to say 30 years. What's a good time to take, I'll say probiotics? When's a good time? Because you hear the things, you know, when you should take your supplements in the morning, before food, after food, or at nighttime while you're sleeping. And so,
you know,
should you?
Right. I can't talk about other probiotics because virtually 99% of them were not designed to survive stomach acid. Without that survival, it really doesn't matter, because a vast majority of them will get killed trying to pass the acid in the stomach. So make it easier for people. I tell them take the Trenev trio or the healthy Trinity upon arising, or take it just before breakfast. You can take our powders just before breakfast to make it easier. You can take it 3 times a day if you're somewhat seriously compromised, or you could take it first thing in the morning and last thing at night. There's not really a wrong way to take our products. There's a best way to take our products.
Gotcha. And so, can you share, because until meeting you, I really didn't understand what the rankings are, million, billion, and trillion rankings that you'll see
Yeah,
on all probiotic bottles and boxes.
right. So first of all, I was honored to be asked twice by the entire health food industry to set a probiotic labeling standard, because unfortunately, efficacy is not regulated either by the health food industry or by the FDA. They just don't prevent you from making any claims, regardless of how much research you do. The problem is that the billion designation was set up by me to show that you need at least 2 billion per gram of these active healthy cells in order to have an impact on your body. And then I said every bacteria that you list on your label has to be guaranteed separately, because if you just list the bacteria name and give a total potency count, it's very deceptive because it doesn't mean anything. So all of these people who are giving you a total 50 billion, 100 billion, it's meaningless, because number one, you don't know if you have really good bacteria at a large count in that mix. And number two, and most importantly, will that survive stomach acid, which, as you know, is very acidic. And actually, stomach acid was designed to digest proteins and kill bacteria. So, you don't have to be well educated as a consumer. If I'm telling you the most important supplement to take for the 21st century, and you're buying things that were going to be killed by your stomach acid, you're not doing your body any favors, you're not saving any money, and you're completely missing the need for these beneficial bacteria to be reintroduced to the body, which we have lost in significant numbers because what we've done environmentally to the air, to the water, and our food.
It's scary when you really get down to it, especially being in the health and wellness world that you and I both have been in for quite some time. I don't want to say that we're privy to more information, but we do hear a lot because that's our daily conversation. The topic that comes up, because I share a lot with my audience about things that I do for my health and wellness. Going to be 56 this year, and I feel pretty good still. But how do you know? And this is a question. It's like, John, how do I know if my probiotic's working? How do I know if it's working? And why should I take it? And so, can you? I know I threw 2 questions in there, but how can you share with our followers or any of your consumers? You spoke about consumers, right before. It's working.
Yeah, most consumers I know either have constipation or diarrhea. And if they don't have constipation or diarrhea, they really don't have a high energy level. In other words, their food is not being converted into energy. You can feed your body or fuel your body. And if you have the right probiotic, it's going to help your body fuel itself, because you should have energy after you eat and not feel tired.
So I may have misheard. I know what you meant, but I'm just to clarify. You said if you don't have diarrhea,
and you don't have constipation, but you can still not be converting the food into energy. You can just be feeding your body, which means you're just adding, layers of cells to your body.
Yep.
Or you're using that food as fuel. And if you're prone to gain weight easily, you are not able to fuel your body because your food is not converted into energy.
And so how do probiotics get in there? I mean, if I didn't work out, I can gain weight, and so I do it for my own therapy, but also to stay in shape. And so I can tell when my body is off. And so back again, how do I know my probiotic is working?
Your probiotic is working because you feel energetic when you get up in the morning. Okay. Your mood is better because now you're getting those feel-good chemicals that the bacteria make in your gut, like serotonin and dopamine, and they're the precursors to GABA and tryptophan. So all those good chemicals that your brain needs to function properly are made in the gut. And seeing how depression is a field that's exploding, another problem, I know that it's a gut issue first, because if you're not getting those feel-good chemicals, there's no way that you can feel happy and you have your mood swings unless you're very advanced, meditator, and your perception of reality is controlled by your thinking. Not too many people are up there. So most of us depend heavily on these bacteria to be able to produce these feel-good chemicals, so we feel good when we wake up in the morning.
Instead of just jumping up and getting a cup of coffee, getting that energy somewhere else. We talk about good and bad bacteria in the gut, and can you talk about why one would need a probiotic bacteria in the gut? I know you talk about sleep and health and wellness, but also depression. And it's after spending a lot of time with you both and really understanding the importance of probiotics. Like I mentioned, I've been on your products for years before I even met the two of you. And as that's a whole other story. But
you were using our brand, which is even nicer.
Yeah, exactly. And so running into you going, oh my God, I know exactly who you are, who you guys are. But the importance, with all the patients that I work with that come to us here at United Patients Group, John, I'm dealing with sleep issues, depression issues, chronic ailment, fibromyalgia, autism, the list goes on.
Lupus.
The thing that I do, I say, yes, cannabis and cannabinoids, in my opinion, it's a wonderful plant medicine, but it's also a Band-Aid for a lot of things. And I'm a fan, which my followers will always have heard me say for years, giving any of this type of thing a 1-2 punch, even 1, 2, 3, even 5 punch, and adding different things. And with all my conversations, I always talk about guts, and you can rewind all my tapes and all the videos I've done talking about the second brain, the brain, and the guts a second brain, or vice versa, however you want to look at that. And so talking about why does one need probiotic bacteria in the gut and how everything is stemmed from there. And you just mentioned about mental health, which is happening right here, not only taking its wave through America, but globally. That's one thing that I say, research, look into the benefits of probiotic bacteria in the gut and how that can benefit whatever you're going through as part of that 1-2 punch. Okay, so can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's the most important thing is to keep those beneficial colonies up. If we have 100 trillion bacteria lining the 27 feet of our intestinal tract, and every 10 minutes you lose every minute you lose 10 million cells. Your body has to produce 10 million new cells every minute because your 50 trillion cells are replaced every year. So the probiotics play an indispensable function in making sure that your body is producing healthy proteins and not cheap proteins to make the new cellular structure. Okay, that's also part of aging. It's not just mental health, it's also part of aging. And your skin really reflects what's going inside your body. The skin is like the mirror of what's going inside your body. And unfortunately, since 40% of our dry white fecal matter is bacteria, those bacteria need to be recycled on a daily basis. And in the cultures that I have studied, it used to be fortified by having natural fermented foods, such as real yogurt, real kefir, some kind of a fermented food that's part of the cultural intake to replenish that beneficial bacteria. However, what's happened in the last 50 years, those foods, which we call functional foods with some bacteria in it, are no longer enough to replenish the amount of good bacteria that we've destroyed by the chemicals, our thought process, and the food that we consume, and the air that we breathe, and the water that we drink. So we've brought our body down to its knees. In other words, we've done so much harm that a food alone cannot replace it. So I say it's the diet, it's the exercise, moderate exercise, I should say, and the right precision probiotic supplementation. Because if you don't use the right supplementation, you will never experience the miracle of what a true probiotic can do to your health. And not just, for longevity reasons, for energy levels, for beautiful skin, for good thinking. It is an essential part of our body and our composition that needs to be renewed. Just like you need to eat every day to help your body form this new cellular structure, the bacteria have to be renewed every day, because you as an individual are no longer an optimal area that it wants to live. And bacteria don't waste their energy growing someplace that doesn't benefit them. And unfortunately, what we have done is we have made ourselves not the most exciting place for them to want to live anymore. And this has gone over a 50-year cycle. That's why you're seeing an explosion of diseases, because we've lost our first line of defense.
So let's talk about explosion of diseases. I was going to keep that question towards the latter part of this podcast here. I know you work with a lot of mental health patients, but you're working with a lot and have worked with a lot of autistic families and patients. And so, can you talk about how and why a probiotic, or even Protren and Natren are beneficial for that, and what you're seeing?
Yeah. First of all, with autism, it is a complete breakdown of the communication of the first brain to the second brain. And the neurons in your head are completely in a wrong formation for you to function properly. There's many theories of why and I don't have time to go into what the theories are about what causes autism, but we know that it's increasing and it's not getting better. So we find that unless you take care of the gut, you really can't take care of the neural feedback that's necessary for that autistic child. Because if the gut is not functioning properly, those messages that keeps being sent up the vagus nerve up to our first brain are still skewed, and the inflammation is causing the malfunction and not allowing the body to heal itself. So you have to have a program. I have a 12-week program that took me over 2 years to come up with. And that 2-year program has to be administered to the child. It has to be put on a low carbohydrate diet. You may have to go into other neurofeedback therapies, but it is a combination of the right therapies. The problem we have now is people are using this therapy or that therapy and not the right combination of therapies to treat the body as a whole. We are again trying to treat symptoms and not understanding that the body as a whole has to be healed in a very complex disease that we just label autism.
So give an example of an outcome of a patient who's autistic and does the 12-week program.
Well, with the 12-week program, some younger children have full recovery. Other children start functioning much better and are much more able to take an additional therapy like magnetic stimulation or neural feedback, or learning to speak, because until the gut is fixed, all those other processes will take way too long, and it will not give a full recovery to the patient. Because remember, the dynamics going on in your GI tract affect every second of your life. And if that's upset, everything else in your body will not function appropriately. And what is inflammation? Inflammation is caused by the immune system trying to destroy defective cells in the body that it feels are threatening the rest of the body for health. So if the bacteria are misdirecting the immune system to attack the body rather than to the pathogen or the invader, it's a continuous inflammation because the immune system is being misdirected. It's destroying the cellular structure and not understanding that you cannot continuously keep destroying the cellular structure, because now you're starting that slide down which destroys the body ultimately.
So
Makes sense?
it does make sense. And so again, for our listeners, because I do work with a lot of autistic families and patients, just so you can clarify again what the positive outcome is of what you're looking when you say, I don't want to say it's a cure. I don't use the word cure, but at the same time, helping these families, which I'm certain are
Yeah. What I'm saying, it's the first tool you need to use to help the body heal itself. The body is a magnificent machine. It has the ability to heal itself. But without fixing that tool, which is the digestive tract, and affects every function in the body, whatever therapy you're using is not going to work to heal the child unless the child has some kind of a miraculous recovery. And I always pray for that. But what I see being done is the inappropriate use of probiotics, where you're just targeting symptoms and you're making promises you can't really keep. We think of the intestinal tract as a very complex ecosystem that needs to be changed slowly so that it doesn't have what we call a healing crisis. Because when the body recognizes that there's too many toxins being produced inside by bad bacteria, it tries to flush it out immediately. And since there's not enough exit points, the person will feel miserable until those toxins are cleared out of the body. So we know that children who are autistic are extremely toxic in their intestinal tract. So that process of elimination has to be done slowly with the right precision probiotic. It has to be done over a long course so that the ecosystem has a chance to reestablish itself and optimally serve the end user, which is you, the individual.
Gotcha. I mean, I know this topic comes up quite a bit with families like that, and our conversations that you and I have had about the gut and how exit points are, not too many, but also let's go into cancer, pancreatic cancer, for example. When Corinne was diagnosed, we did everything, and we did do probiotics, we did do enzymes, we did coffee enemas. I mean, when you get a diagnosis as severe as cancer, you will try anything and everything.
And they're not bad therapies, but they're not conclusive. You see, the thing is, the one thing the FDA does not want to regulate is natural remedies because it hurts the sale of pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
And I have to say this because I've been in this field 54 years. So it's not a matter of using just any probiotic. I've worked in this field for 54 years. I've dealt with some of the best minds in the world. And one of the former heads of the World Health Organization, Dr. Constantini, stated emphatically that cancers are caused by fungal overgrowth and the production of mycotoxins in the body. And he particularly talked about pancreatic cancer as being the problem with fungal overgrowth because the pancreas serves us with many functions. And one of them is regulating the sugar levels in our bloodstream and what the rest of our body utilizes. So what is the objective of any organism that wants more sugar? It stimulates you to eat more sugar, but that more sugar allows something destructive to grow. And as a consequence, what I call cheap protein cells will be produced, and that's what causes the cancer. That's how these organisms causes the cancer, because they take that energy necessary for you to produce healthy proteins to replace your cellular structure. And when that's not being done, that's how cancers are formed.
There's so many different types of, supplements and different types of organisms out there, as well as probiotic companies. You've slightly touched up on it, but what makes Protren and Natren different, better than the other brands? And I'm not saying ours is better than, but why that? And then also, I've heard some of the organisms can be harmful. How to know that Protren's bacteria are safe? If you can share that.
Yeah, well, okay. First of all, I'm a veteran of 54 years. My probiotic label and standard was not only voted on by 5,000 members of the health food industry and accepted, and then in 1995, it was read into congressional record. So yes, there is a standard. And unfortunately, because our methods are difficult and expensive, most people don't want to do that because that's not an easy way to make money. So I am still the only one in the world that's using two unique methods to make the probiotics that I researched personally for well over 40 years to make sure that whatever bacteria I chose has been in the literature for well over 100 years. It doesn't, oppose the other bacteria that I use or try to inhibit them, so that the bacteria I use are completely compatible. And I chose bacteria that actually love to live in the certain places of your intestinal tract and cooperate with your immune system in your body. That's a lot of work to do to figure all of that out. And that's what most people don't want to do, because it's not an easy trail to make money.
Yeah, I know that. And I've been to your not only your offices, but also your, what would you call it? Not warehouse.
Production facility.
Production company. I mean, it is a pharmaceutical grade production facility with multi-million dollar pieces of machinery in there. The cleanliness, the top of the line, correct me if I'm wrong, but every label, I mean, just like in the cannabis industry, every bottle has to be accounted for. Is that correct as well?
Yeah, we cannot destroy any label. We operate under international drug CGMPs, and every label has to be accounted for, documented if it's lost. Every piece of raw material that comes into our plant is quarantined, and we set a sample out to an independent lab to make sure that whatever raw material we were sent is actually what's in that can or in that bag that was sent to us. And we don't buy any of our raw materials except from the US, Europe, Canada, period. We don't buy anything from Asia because we know we've had problems. So that's what makes the product a little bit more expensive, because those places we get our raw materials from have a higher standard of producing them, and we put a higher standard of product in our finished product. But the cost of quarantining every bag of material that comes in, we have to have a separate room. We have to have a full laboratory staff. We have to take samples from that. We can't use it for at least 7 days, because that's how long it takes for the outside lab to verify what's in that raw material bag. Without that kind of dedication, you're going to get contaminated product. You're going to get bacteria that possibly could turn against you. And that's where I'm opposed to the use of soil organisms. And I'll tell you why, very simply. There's only 3 things that can turn on and off your genes. Your genes do not turn themselves on and off by themselves. The number one thing is your perception of reality. How you read reality can turn on and off your genes. You're a negative person that's always complaining about something, that negativity will turn on and off the wrong genes. Okay, will not help you. Second thing is the bacteria in your gut. The bacteria in your gut have the ability to switch on and off your genes. So by all means, you cannot willy-nilly just buy a product off the shelf with all these bacteria names, which most consumers, quite frankly, don't even know what they're buying, and just put it into your body. It's not really a good, smart thing to do. And the third thing that can turn on and off into your genes is the poisons or the toxins these unwanted bacteria may produce. They can turn on and off your genes. It's the toxin that was found in that Roundup weed killer that was starting to kill the beneficial bacteria that caused the microbiome to become defective and caused the cancers to be formed.
Whew. Being in this sector in the health and wellness world, this is our daily discussions with patients, consumers, and I'm certainly with you as well. This one comes up even with my family members as well, is why do I need a probiotic supplement if I'm already taking yogurt, kefir, fermented foods that in my diet and as well. And so can you talk about
Absolutely
why
I set the liquid yogurt standard in California in 1969. I was asked by the Department of Agriculture in New York State to fly out and help them set a kefir standard. First of all, no government agency, state or federal, is checking to see that you have the right bacteria in order to be able to call something a yogurt or to call somebody a kefir. Anybody can slap on a label and use any organisms they want, whether or not it matches the finished product or not is completely irrelevant because nobody's checking. That's number one. Number two, any food such as yogurt and kefir is called a functional food. It provides more quality and positive things for your diet than an average food, but it does not contain the proper bacteria in any form, no matter what they tell you on the label, that's going to implant in your small and large intestine to help you. The functional foods were used before as a way to stimulate those bacteria that were already there to grow and thrive. But since we've lost those beneficial bacteria by the abuse of antibiotics, by the toxins in our food, by the toxins in our environment, now we need smart bacteria that need to be reimplanted in order for those functional foods to have any effect on us.
You talk about, and I know we're coming to the end here because I want our listeners to stay on. I could stay on here for another 2 hours with you. You talk about antibiotics, which is happening with a lot of patients these days. And it's one thing I always talk about. If you're going to take that, even if you're battling something, a quick illness where the doctor gives you antibiotics, you should also protect yourself with probiotics.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, you need to after every dose of an antibiotic, 2 hours later, you need to take a probiotic. And why? Because you're creating a void on the intestinal wall. And in microbiology, voids are not tolerated.
Yeah.
So rather than allowing that empty space to be filled by resistant bacteria, you need to take a probiotic as a placeholder to sort of control the vast changes that are going to be taking place because of that antibiotic use.
Yeah. Can we talk, and I appreciate your time, but can we talk about the pain? I work with a lot of pain patients as well, that are dependent on an opioid to get through the day. I work with a lot of pain patients, but also fibromyalgia patients. Can you talk about that? I know we've talked about this offline. Can you share how that could be beneficial for pain patients as well as fibromyalgia patients?
Pain is usually caused by inflammation, and inflammation is usually caused by the immune system trying to destroy something that's defective in the body. And depending on where the pain is or what area of the cellular structure is being destroyed is where the pain occurs. So again, it's a holistic problem that needs to be approached in a holistic way. You have to change your diet. You have to get real precision probiotics into your diet. You have to start meditating. You have to change your lifestyle. And then, while you're getting through it, continue to take the pain medication, but start trying to titrate off, because pain is a sign that there's a dysfunction in the body. The body does talk to us, and we ignore it by giving it painkillers, because what are we doing? We're shutting off the message, but we're not taking care of the problem.
Yeah. Natasha and Jordan, you guys have had your company for over 50 years. Like I said, I mentioned I've been in your office. I've sat in your boardroom. I've been in your warehouse and everything. Not only do you work with patients to try to get their guts back in balance, I should say, you're working with the autistic groups. You're working with the pain groups. You're working with the cancer groups, but you're also working with the rehab groups.
Yeah, the addiction groups, which is now exploding in numbers as well.
Yeah, and so not to say take a probiotic and you'll be healed, and it's the magic pill, but there's a lot that goes on with having your gut balanced, the bacteria in your body balanced, and then of course the brain, the first brain, second brain, or vice versa.
Remember, when you have an addiction, it's also your microbiome that's addicted. And what we're trying to do is provide a healthy environment for the body to have the ability to heal itself. You know, we've been sold the idea that the body cannot heal itself. It absolutely can. You just have to give it the tools and stop abusing the body. And the best way to stop abusing the body is, if we're more microbes than we are human cells, we better make sure that that more microbes is more of the beneficial variety than the variety that can cause problems.
Well, Natasha, I thank you very much for your time. Do you have any closing words for my audience?
Yes, I do. I firmly believe, and that's why I'm working after 54 years, is that the concept of probiotics is not understood. People are bombarded with all kinds of pitches and sales. The time has come. It's too serious of a problem right now. You cannot be just pitched products, and that's what I'm not working. It's not about selling you products. It's not about trying to convince you of anything. I'm here to tell you what the facts are, which I've learned in 54 years of me being in this industry. You need to fix your gut. You need to do it with precision probiotics. It's not a quick fix. For some people, it's a longer fix, but you need to dedicate yourself, whether you have pain, whether you have brain issues, whatever issue you have in your body, this is what you need to fix first as your first roadmap on getting yourself healthy.
Amen. I laugh when you say 54 years of doing this, because I know your daughter and maybe your husband at times like, come on, pass the torch, Mom. You've done so much for this industry, and but
there's really no one to pass the torch on to. That's
it's a passion. You believe in it. Not only with you and Jordan having this company for 54 plus years, but you grew up with this, and this is something that's been passed on from generation to generation to generation. And but I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you for your products. You can find Natren online at natren.com, or at pretty much all of your health food stores here in America and some places overseas. I know you do a lot over in Europe, Dubai. I want to say that even the Asians, the Chinese,
oh yeah, my biggest customers are in Hong Kong, and I love the Chinese customer because their ethnic philosophy is to protect health, not to take stuff after they get sick, but to stay healthy, which is a philosophy I think all of us need to adopt.
You know, growing up in Asia, I've met people back over here, and they said you don't have the same mindset of the typical American, and I'll take that as a compliment as well. Of before things happen, let's prevention.
Yeah.
Prevention is really important. So Natren, you can find it at natren.com or your favorite health food store, and Protren, which you can find online as well, protren.com, but also at your
and you can get John's recommendation, because he deals with our Protren team, and you can get a much more custom formulation that doesn't cost you more, but we do it as a service to all of our customers.
And there's a lot, and you have a great team there that can answer a lot of your questions about which one is best for what I'm going through as well. Not to make this a sale thing, as you mentioned earlier here, but Natasha has given our followers a 20% off. If you want to take advantage of that, the code is UPG, and you can do it on their website as well. But Natasha, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being part of my health, and I appreciate it. And don't retire, because I depend on these
and also
every day.
what I'm also proud of, don't forget, you can call and talk to a live person. That most of these people have been with me for 10 years or more. Some have been for me with 20 years, and they're here because they share the same passion, because they said nothing makes them feel better than when somebody said, thank you, you really saved my life. I feel so much better.
And that when you hear stuff like that, you're on the right path in what we're doing. Do you want to add your phone number on there, or do you want to just go to your website?
So call our toll-free number, 866 4, and then spell the name Natren, and there you can also push for professional, which John is associated with the Protren line, or you can go to our consumer direct. Either one will be happy to help you. And we just want you better. And, I know this is a difficult topic for you to understand, but you all have the ability to know the truth when you hear it. So listen and see, discern. Don't be sold by glitzy packaging, fast, talking people. There's too many of those in our industry, and we have too serious of a problem to fool around with that.
Well, Natasha Trenev, the mother of probiotics, I want to thank you for your time, and it's always great seeing you and talking with you as well. Everyone, this is John Malanca with United Patients Group. Be informed and be well, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.